Of course, it would be nice to talk in Romanian, but it would be difficult for you to hear a 40 minutes or 1 hour presentation in Romanian. So I will present it in English. In today's presentation, I will talk about a class of words which exists probably in every spoken language, but which, for some reasons, grammaticians and lexicographers choose not to pay attention to it or to give any importance. First, we will look at some examples, and I really hope that you'll be able to identify these words by yourselves. Then I will tell you more about these words, like how we can identify them, why do they exist, and how do they appear. And if we will have some time left, I would like also to tell you why it is important to study them, or at least to be aware of this classical word. So consider these examples. Mary speaks Portuguese very well. Well, Mary speaks Portuguese. Is it time to go? Well, I think most people will be coming from across campus. So if you look at these examples, what can you say about them? What do you notice? We have well in all 3 examples, but what is different? So how well from A differ from well from B and C? Do you have any idea?
The first one is easier to define. It's just an adverb of good.
Yes, of course. The first one, it is an adverb. Yes, it can be put in one grammatical category in the class of adverbs. But what about the well in B and C? Are they adverbs?
Aren't they interjections?
Well, yeah, some people say they're interjections. Others say they're particles, fillers, and there are many terms for these words. So this is the class of the words I want to talk about in today's presentation. But before that, please look at the examples in 2. Can you identify the examples where we have these weird words which we cannot put in any class? Is it in A, in B, in C, or in D?
C and D.
Where? In C and D. Yes, of course. In C and D, we have these words that we call discourse markers. Other examples in 3, but here please look carefully. You know it's 2 o'clock. I know. Do you think that in example 3A, the speaker A believes that B knows the fact that it's 2 o'clock, or it implies other things? So at first look, it might seem that we have a construction with full lexical meaning, like A implies that B knows that it's 2 o'clock. But actually, in this sentence, what A wants to point is that if B knows the consequences of being 2 o'clock. So in B, I think it's very clear that you know is a discourse marker. I was that angry to actually say something because I wondered if, if I shut up. And in C, I really know how to, shoot the ball. And here you have some examples in Romanian. I translated them in English for you so you can see where is a discourse marker and where is structure with full lexical meaning. So you see in A, mă rog lui Dumnezeu să te faci bine. Here, mă rog has its actual meaning of to pray, but in B, it doesn't have this meaning anymore. Marog can be translated with whatever. So, marog, important este să te faci bine. Whatever. What is important is you to feel better. So, these kind of examples we will talk in today's presentation. Here we have more examples, also in Romanian. Deci, ceea ce am vrut să vă explic a fost numai, mă rog, să vă explic, să încerc să vă conving că, mă rog, v-am spus că am fost și avocați, deci avocații încearcă să convingă întotdeauna, a fost numai cu privire la rațiunea de ce această schimbare. I don't know how much you understand from this sentence, but maybe you can guess that here marog doesn't have the actual meaning of to pray. Actually, here it is used as a repair marker. So what I wanted to explain, it was, well, to explain. I was actually trying to convince you that, well, I told you that I was a lawyer and so on. So it is used as a repair marker. And as a bonus, you have the example in D in Romanian. And I would like to invite you to identify the discourse marker. So
it is știi.
Yes, it's știi. What was your clue? How did you know that it's știi?
Because it is between commas and it is like one single word, lonely.
Yes, that's right. Okay, thank you very much.
And also it's repeated twice.
Yes, that was
yes.
Also, it is repeated twice. Okay, so discourse markers, what are they? As you saw already, there is a group of words that are part of everyday conversation, oral or written, which cannot fit in any traditional grammar classes. This group includes words like well, anyway, right, yeah, like, really, whatever, actually, and so, etc. Hesitations, fillers, like yeah, and even multi-word expressions like, you know, I see, I mean, who knows, in my opinion, by the way, let's be fair, and so on. These apparently meaningless words and phrases whose word class distribution and meaning are opaque, as you saw in the previous examples, and who seems to be grammatically optional, used to be left over by the grammars and dictionaries of any languages. At the first glance, they were called linguistic Cinderellas because they seem to be familiar, drab, hard-worked, lacking in morphological, phonological, and etymological glamour. Others put them in a specific place, which is called lunacy ward, where mindless morphs stare vacantly with no purpose other than to be where they are. Other linguists put those words in the detritus area of conversation, which is apparently lacking semantic content and seemingly not contributing to the substance of what the discourse ends up having said. But there are linguists who consider these words important and call them particles which are inevitably. They are found to have function which relates to a unit larger than the sentence, the paragraph, and the discourse. They have also been seen figuratively as the whale, which helps us perform the complex task of spontaneous speech, and speech production and interaction smoothly and efficiently. And so, but these were linguist remarks on discourse markers from the beginning of 70s. So it was this tendency to avoid this kind of words. But lately, at the beginning of 80s, suddenly they became a huge of interest in, especially in pragmatics and discourse analysis. And they are considered to be some new words, like a matter of subject, a recent matter of study. But actually, I found an older attestation of discourse marker in Dialogo della Lingua from 1535, where the author asks himself, what are these words? So I don't know Spanish very well, and I would like to ask some of you who can read Spanish to read this text for me, this dialogue between Marcio and Valdez. So who wants to practice some reading in Spanish?
I could do it, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Should I read the whole thing?
Yes.
Con tal que nos digáis que quieren decir 7 palabrillas que algunas personas en su hablar usan ordinariamente, las cuales ni se escriben ni tampoco me acuerdo oírlas decir jamás a vos. ¿Qué suerte de palabras es esa? Decidme alguna de ellas. Acueste, pues, así, no sé qué, etc. A esas palabrillas y otras tales que algunos toman a que arrimarse cuando están hablando, no les viene a la memoria el vocablo tan presto como sería menester, no con las otras palabras. Oh, there's more.
Okay. There's more.
Y así unos hay que se arriman a entendéisme, y os lo dicen muchas veces sin haber cosa que importe entenderla o que sea menester mucha atención para alcanzarla, por donde conocéis que no os preguntan si lo entendéis por duda que tengan de ello, sino porque mientras os preguntan aquello les venga a la memoria lo otro. Otros hay que por la misma razón se arriman a no sé, me entendéis, aunque conozcan claramente que son entendidos. Otros dicen, ¿estás conmigo? Que vale tanto como entendéisme. Otros se sirven de pues y otros de tal, y los repiten tantas veces que os vienen en fastidio grandísimo.
And there's more. This is the last one.
I wasn't expecting that, but okay. Muchos se sirven de acueste y se sirven más de él que de caballo de muchas sillas. Otros se aprovechan de así y tras cada palabra os dan con él en los ojos. Otros se sirven de tomé y de tomamos, diciendo tomé y víneme y tomamos y vinimos. Y así les preguntáis qué es lo que tomaron, no os podrán decir con verdad, sino que aquel vocablo no sirve sino para un malo o feo arrimo. Otros semejantes a esto creo que hay de que yo no me acuerdo, si más queréis por buen dinero.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good reading. So these were the linguist remarks on discourse markers before the interest in studying them increased. So during the last 3 decades, actually, analysis of discourse markers have occupied a large space in the literature on pragmatics. They have been considered from a variety of perspectives and approaches, like signaling a sequential relationship between utterances, marking discourse coherence. They have been studied from relevance theoretic point of view, from They have been analyzed regarding to gender, age, regarding to bilingual contexts, to name just a few. How shelter nome? Do they have other names? Yes. A variety of terms are used to refer to these elements. Among them are discourse marker, pragmatic marker, discourse particle, pragmatic expression, connective. The terminological diversity reflects both the wide range of linguistic approaches that have been employed for their study and the multiplicity of functions which these elements are said to fulfill, as we will see later. Also, the different terms also reflect different attitudes to the question of the uniformity or fusiness of the class of discourse markers. In our study, we have chosen discourse marker as a convenient cover term because it seems to be one with the widest currency and with the least restricted range of application. And it also enables us to include a broad variety of elements under a single conceptual umbrella. Because I believe that the label pragmatic is restrictive because it refers only to the interactional level of their use. Particle is seen as more as a grammatical term, so the most convenient is discourse marker indeed. Cum îi recunoaștem? How do we recognize them? First of all, they are independent of sentential structure. Removal of a marker from its sentence initial or final position leaves the sentence structure intact. So if we remove the marker, nothing changes in the sentence. Some markers may occur quite freely within a sentence at locations which are very difficult to define syntactically. Although some languages may choose sentence initial position or other final position, or also it may depend on discourse marker. They seem to be optional rather than obligatory features. Their absence does not affect the grammaticality or the intelligibility of a sentence, but does remove a powerful clue. A discourse marker does not create meaning, but only orients the reader to a particular discourse relationship. Another feature is the lack of semantic content. Markers do not add to the informational or propositional content of the utterance which contain the marker. But lack in this case does not mean a complete absence of meaning. Some markers, they do have vague meaning or little meaning in themselves. Discourse markers are marginal forms. So they constitute a heterogeneous set of forms which are difficult to place within a traditional word class. They have been variously considered interjections, function words, connectors, adverbs, particles. Also included among the class of discourse markers are verbs, coordinate and subordinate conjunctions, sentence fragments, and clauses. Discourse markers form a separate tone group, sometimes with fallen or risen intonation. Or some of them are often phonologically reduced, like Discourse markers are also feature of oral rather than written discourse. And moreover, because of the salient feature of oral style. They appear with high frequency in oral discourse, sometimes with more than one occurring in a single sentence. But anyway, some linguists pointed out that pragmatic markers are not restricted to oral discourse. They are also used in writing, and they may differ. Those who are used in oral speech, of course, they are not used in writing, and vice versa. Discourse markers appear with high frequency, that I said. Okay. Yes, and an important thing about that, because they appear with high frequency in oral speech, they are stylistically stigmatized and negatively evaluated, especially in written and formal discourse, because they are seen to be a sign of disfluency and carelessness. And last but not least, a very important feature, discourse markers are multifunctional. So, as I mentioned above, they're grammatically optional and semantically empty. But they're not pragmatically optional or superfluous. They do serve a variety of pragmatic functions. If such markers are omitted, the discourse is grammatically acceptable, but would be judged unnatural, disjoint, boring, unfriendly within the communicative context. So imagine if a foreign language learner is saying 5 sheep or he goat, he can be corrected by practically every native speaker, and the message is understood. But if, on the other hand, he omits a well, the likely reaction will be that he is dogmatic, impolite, awkward to talk, etc. But the native speaker cannot pinpoint an error. The native speaker cannot say why the sentence sounds unnatural if one omits a pragmatic or a discourse marker. So about discourse markers' functions. If we want to discover their functions, we need to consider not only their lexical context, but also their pragmatic context. And by pragmatic context, I mean not only the sentence where they occur, but also the relationship between the interlocutors, also the common knowledge they share, the society they live, and many other important aspects that can describe the situation of communication. So what types of discourse markers do we know? So there are markers who connect to units of the speech, like so, and, but, moreover, furthermore, on the contrary, then, anyway, and many other. Turn takers, they help the speaker to take the floor. Yes, no, but, well, I see, right, wait, actually, I think. Confirmation seekers, they use when the speaker requires permanent feedback. You know, right, isn't it? Wasn't he, she, it? Do you understand? And many other. And confirmation markers, they provide the speaker with feedback. I know, I see, yes, right, really, of course, I understand. Topic switchers, which indicate a new topic or a partial shift in topic, like, okay, well, now, then, etc. Fillers and hesitation markers, which often are used as a delaying tactic to signal to others a pause to think without giving the impression of having finished speaking. And these are, yeah, well, so, like, you know, I mean, actually, basically. Repair markers. Markers who repair one's own or others' discourse. Well, I mean, you know, like. Attitude markers. like cool, amazing, amazingly, wow, good, whatever, exactly, great, obviously, clearly, sadly, definitely, and there are so many other. Hedging devices. These markers show that the speaker is not fully committed to what follows. Probably, perhaps, apparently, like, it seems, who knows, in generally, as I understand, etc. So here I gave only few examples, and I used English as a reference, but the equivalent of these examples can be found in any language. Cum apar și cum dispar. So it is commonly agreed that discourse markers are the result of the process of grammaticalization and pragmaticalization. Before describing briefly grammaticalization and pragmaticalization, let's consider first the following examples. So here you have a Romanian discourse marker, parcă. It is hard to translate it in English, so I describe it in the brackets. So this parcă indicates a lower degree of certitude. And it evolved from a more complex structure. A predicate, pare, which has a verb, to seem, and a complementizer, că, that.
Wait, Valentina, this is the exact translation of parece que in Portuguese.
Ah, okay.
Pareca.
So it's very familiar for you. And here we have the example, a plecat miercuri parcă. So here you have a typical case of grammaticalization or pragmaticalization when a syntactical structure becomes a discourse marker. And the example, when it is the example below, parcă has this function. And the approximate translation in English is I know as far as I remember, as I know as far as I remember. I don't know if would it be possible, this example in Portuguese? A plecat miercuri parcă. Would you use parece que in this context?
Parece que ele saiu na quarta-feira.
Ah, okay. And has it the
Ou
same?
ele saiu na quarta-feira, parece.
And does it mean as far as I know or as far as I remember? Like
Yeah, the same thing, yes.
Okay. Another discourse marker, which is the result of the process of grammaticalization, is chica. It is said that. So it was created from it is said that. Se zice că. Do you have something similar in Portuguese?
Sim. Se diz que. Tem a expressão. There's this expression, se diz que, and they can be like only disso or something like this.
Well, as you notice here, se zice, the predicate was reducted, and it was bounded with the complementizer, and the result is chica. La fabrică cică mai sunt 15 inși dintr-o 100 câți erau pe vremuri. The translation of this would be they say. At the factory they say. I couldn't find another equivalent in English. You may check in your language if this is possible. Another beautiful, interesting marker which I really love is matincă. This marker is very interesting because for Romanians, it is an old marker. They don't use it anymore. But from Romanians in Moldova, it has a very high frequency in everyday use. And it also evolved from pragmatic plus complementizer structure mă tem că, I am afraid that, and with some epentheses and some vowel changes, it became mătincă. So mă tem că, mă ten că, mătincă. And also the meaning has changed. Now the speaker doesn't feel the meaning of afraid. So it was, the meaning is opaque now. And the actual meaning of as a discourse marker is I think. Am să-i spun lui mama să vină în iulie. Mă tin că o să fie mai bine. I will tell my mom to come in June. It would be better, I think. Cred că would be the equivalent of mă tin că here in standard Romanian. Din acest motiv, cred că sunt puține șansele ca descoperirile vicare să poată modifica radical cronologia. For this reason, I think there is little chances, and so on.
For that, we have this expression, eu temo que e eu creio que, but they are not very frequent in Portuguese. In Portuguese, we would say acho for that function.
And temo que
Mostly.
literally means I'm afraid that.
Yes, but it's used with like a broad range of meanings.
So here, the idea is that even this lexical meaning is lost, the meaning of I am afraid. So the speaker don't perceive it anymore. Okay. So what is grammaticalization, and what it has to do with discourse markers? Well, some in the history study of discourse markers, the process of discourse markers developing was and continue to be a controversial issue, because some linguists analyze discourse markers within grammaticalization framework, and while others believe that they should be part of pragmaticalization framework, because discourse markers are not grammatical words. A general definition of what is grammaticalization is that grammaticalization represents the development of the procedural expressions, among them tense, aspect, modality, connectives, discourse markers, and the study of such developments. So indeed, grammaticalization is responsible for some auxiliaries we have in our language, for some nouns which become adverbs, or some prepositions or prepositions, but also they're responsible for the development of discourse markers. It is seen as an unidirectional phenomenon associated with decategorialization, so losing the grammatical categories. So words which used to be nouns became adverbs, which used to be verbs became auxiliaries or other parts of speech. A bonding within the phrase, a phonological reduction, as you see in the examples above, generalization of meaning, and increase in grammatical or pragmatical functions. And pragmaticalization, on the other hand, is the process through which a given word acquires pragmatic functions, consolidates the old ones, and broadens its spectrum with new pragmatic values. So pragmaticalization would be the explanation of the development or of the creation of discourse markers, but it doesn't explain the whole process. So there is another integralist approach, where pragmaticalization is considered a natural development of the grammaticalization process. At the basis of grammaticalization stands the attitude of the speaker that generates innovation. And that would be explained through two synchronic phases of language change. First, there is innovation, which generates variation, and then the propagation of the innovated variant into a speech community. So how that works? In the first stage, a speaker uses a more elaborate construction to communicate the situation. Then this expression comes to be a conventional linguistic routine for expressing the situation, and is therefore fused into a new single complex unit. But in some cases, this unit is eroded, or both phonologically and morphologically, as we've seen in examples above, leading to the loss of syntactic independence and phonological affixation of the more invariant elements of the construction. Here we have some similar examples, those presented in Romanian in Sicilian: dicica, parica, pensica, capacica, potica. And having these examples, can you think about something similar in your language? Except Bruno said some examples like parece, que. It was, I don't remember the dici they say, or it is said, or how it was.
Se dizer, se diz que.
Qual que você falou? Alguém falou?
Yeah. Can you say again the examples?
Me?
I don't know. I cannot see you, so I don't know who said them.
No, I said se diz que, but someone else said something, but I didn't hear.
Okay.
It was Nick. He was saying se diz que. He just.
I was trying.
No, you said it right. You said it right.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So you pronounced in the way that it has many chances to become one single unit maybe in some future. We don't know how language will evolve, but do you feel that now they use it is already has this tendency to become one single unit? Did you notice that? And these words which have these functions as discourse markers, that somehow, because they're very frequent, speakers, they don't pronounce them like unit by unit. They pronounce as a single unit. So sidicique, or how is that? Sidicique as a single unit. Okay. And here you have a bonus problem to solve. Okay, Bruno, what can you give more details about this problem?
Sim. É um problema antigo da OBL. Na frase... Tem 5 frases. São 2 tarefas, né? A primeira tarefa é, nessas 5 frases, ordenar elas pelas que estão... pelos que o verbo parecer está mais gramaticalizado e menos gramaticalizado. Onde ele é mais verbo e onde ele é mais alguma outra coisa. Um marcador discursivo.
Ok, obrigado.
De nada.
So, should they do it now, or?
Yes, I can read if you want.
Okay.
Yes, the last phrase, we can see the whole phrase, the last one. You can only see until que há anos atrás, and then we can't see anymore.
Parecer excessivas, mas que na realidade não são. This is Yes, I'm sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, read the first one. Esse ano não teve festa, caiu no domingo, então eles preferiram transferir parece para o Dia das Crianças, porque em geral a religião dele aos domingos, não, é dia completamente que não tem comércio, não é? I think everyone can guess a number now.
Okay.
Hard to say without comparing, but probably like the least or like almost least one. Like 1 or 2.
Yes, sir. Eu daria 1 ou 2 também, eu acho. Me parece que é 1 ou 2. Não, mentira.
Eu não sei, cara. Eu tenho que pensar, ficar comparando com o resto.
Mas a gente tem que colocar em ordem, assim, sei lá, distribuir de 1 ao 5.
De 1 a 5.
Isso, do mais pro menos velho.
1 a 5.
Vamos lá, abra o microfone e vamos resolver juntos aí.
Eu tenho quase certeza que a primeira é 1.
Deixa eu trocar o fone pra ele.
Alguém lê a próxima.
Acho que a primeira é 1 porque você simplesmente jogou, assim, tipo, nem tem nenhuma, você nem ajeita, tipo, me parece que, assim, da terceira você só jogou.
Essa é de verbo, assim. Acho que é 1 também.
Vocês acham que a terceira é 5, então?
Não.
Não?
Não.
Gente, eu acho que você ia ler tudo.
Lê aí.
Eu queria
É mais velho. Porque, por exemplo, ficar parecendo um caramelo, o parecendo tá fazendo função de parecer. Não só um marcador.
No segundo.
É bem mais verbo que o primeiro, com certeza.
Eu não consigo ver o último.
É verdade.
É mais fácil comparar com o outro.
Pega aí alguém no site da BR.
Você sabe a edição?
Não. Pode olhar o gabarito, não.
Não,
o terceiro
não.
Exercício.
O terceiro me parece.
Só por curiosidade, que não é.
Não me parece. Mas o terceiro me parece que não é, que é mais. É menos função do que o primeiro.
Você não quer simplesmente nomear os
Não, tem mais função que o primeiro.
Mais função que o primeiro.
Tem mais função, é isso que eu queria dizer.
Ele estaria entre o primeiro e o segundo, eu acho.
Ele tá entre o primeiro e o segundo, eu também acho.
O quarto me parece menos do que o terceiro.
Menos do que o terceiro.
Mas qual é o último,
obviamente? Eu também não sei. The last one we can't really read, so...
Eu tenho aqui. São certas liberdades que hoje existem que há anos atrás poderiam parecer excessivas, mas que na realidade não são.
Tá, ok.
Isso aí é bem mais do que o...
Claramente vai ser 1,
e o
4,
primeiro.
3, 2, 5. Pra mim é 1, 4, 3, 2, 5. Não sei você.
Eu acho que a segunda e a última elas são.
A última é o mais verbo de todas.
É 1, 4, 3, 2, 5.
É 1, 4, 3, 2, 5 na minha cabeça.
3, 2, 5.
1, 4, 3, 2, 5. Só repetir.
Isso. Tá certo.
Eba!
Very well.
É isso, gente.
Mas só uns comentários. Porque o 4 e o 5 são os que o verbo está conjugado, né? Isso é uma super dica. Mas o 5, o 4 ainda tem uma... Enfim, mas o 3 então tem pronome, quer dizer, tem o que depois e tem o pronome me antes. Aí o 2 tem só o pronome que e o outro não tem nada, assim. Pelas formas é fácil ver.
Yes.
Okay. And we can continue now.
Yeah.
So here you have a text also in Portuguese. And I wonder if you can find discourse markers here. Words which were subject of the process of grammaticalization and became discourse markers.
parece que ali tá.
Yeah,
A
parece
gente
que
acabou de
the
ver.
second one.
Tem o é verdade, aí tem o né.
Tem, eu acho que o muito cheguei, né? Já é tudo.
Tem o tá. Não,
O visto
não, muito
que-
cheguei, né? Não é não. É só
O
o né.
visto que poderia ser também? Não.
Seria só
Ali
um, né?
na primeira linha,
Eu
o
acho
visto
que
que
só o né.
poderia ser?
Porque, tipo,
Não.
muito cheguei tem
Não,
significado.
não, acho que não.
Sabe.
Tá, então a
Sei.
gente pega o sabe, o tá.
O tá, tem o né também.
A gente já
É,
viu aí.
Tem o
Parece
é
que
verdade.
Se
E
pá,
aí
verdade
também,
seria
é
também.
bem.
Mesmo.
se pá.
Tem um cipá aí.
Tem o se pá
é
também.
verdade,
É
Tem
verdade.
umas
Sabe,
partes mal
sabe.
formais. Assim.
né?
Então,
O não
Tem
repetido.
o aí também, né?
Sabe.
Sabe, né?
Fica indo sempre
Aquele
nos mesmos
pá no
lugares,
final.
tem os mesmos dados.
Famoso
Aí,
né.
esse aí é. Esse aí também é.
Sim, realmente.
e
O
o
é
que que
verdade
cada,
também entra?
O
e o que
tá
que
é,
cada um
né?
deles faz?
Se pá, realmente se pá.
Pô, deixa eu voltar então.
O que cada um deles faz?
Então, parece que
Arco de fluxo.
mostra uma incerteza, assim, de certa forma. Ou talvez é um marcador de evidencialidade, assim, tá ligado? Tipo, a pessoa aí.
É, tipo, eu não quero falar que eu sabia que ele voltava do trabalho. Mas parece que enquanto voltava do trabalho.
Eu acho que é igual o que ela tava apresentando, que, tipo, demonstra que a pessoa não tem uma completa certeza do que vem a seguir. Então, ela inclui
Sim, certeza.
esse marcador.
Parece que tá indicando, assim, que a pessoa chegou nessa conclusão ao supor por si própria, sabe? Eu sinto isso.
Ou talvez ela não tenha certeza.
É isso que eu ia dizer, ela deve ter ouvido de alguém.
Mas, exatamente.
Ela não quer tomar
Pode ser também.
responsabilidade
Pode ser.
pelo que
Exatamente.
tá dizendo. Ela fala, não, como eu ouvi, parece que isso.
Exatamente.
Se pá.
Se pá, hipótese.
Isso.
Isso aí é uma coisa que ela tá trazendo dela mesma, porque ela não ouviu. Ela tá
Se pá, talvez.
supondo
É
supondo que é uma
possível que-
possibilidade.
Não, eu não acho que esse pá é marcador. Vocês acham?
É, não
Porque,
sei. O
tipo,
se pá
se
nesse
você
caso
tirar
também.
ele, eu acho que ele é
Se
só
pá nesse
gíria.
caso tá mais como
Você tirar ele,
advérbio.
você tira a função.
Talvez seja.
Peraí, mas
Tipo,
é que
ele é só uma gíria, mas não necessariamente marcador.
se pá é um super marcador, é um marcador de... É quase um advérbio.
Exatamente por isso que não é marcador.
É um advérbio. É um advérbio. Você tá
Então,
ouvindo,
é que a fronteira não é muito clara, né, entre essas
Sim.
coisas.
É,
Sim.
Carol perguntou isso.
Ah, ok. O sabe é um marcador aqui, né, não?
Sim.
Eu sabia.
é,
Você tem que se acostumar, sabe?
O
marcador.
sabe, o tá e o né fazem a mesma função, né?
Sabe,
O
né?
né
Sabe, né? Tem a
ele
mesma
faz
função.
confirmação.
É, de confirmação.
E o sabe também, né? E o tá lá embaixo.
Sabe,
Eu
sabe
também.
também.
Então, o que eu tava falando do se pá é que se você tirar ele, faz um sentido.
Ele escreveu que ele não é marcador.
Muda bem essa ideia, assim. Eu também acho.
Tá, acho que ficou
É
nessa.
a mesma ideia que o talvez aí, sabe? Talvez não é um marcador discursivo.
Yeah, so we found everything.
Vamos só ir assim.
Very good. I am curious, if you can give an approximate translation of ta, how you would translate it?
It's like, okay?
Ok.
Okay, is the best one.
So it is a confirmation seeker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can be used in other senses as well.
Of course.
The best translation of ta would be the British marker in it. I think that's the best one.
Like, isn't it? Or
Yeah.
which one?
In it.
Tá is originally a shortening of está bem.
Está bem. Very interesting. That is
Opa, it's very much fun.
grammaticalization.
It's a good example.
Yes, it is. That is it's a very good example of grammaticalization.
And also because it is in this sense of confirmation, it always has a rising tone. Tá. Não precisa da minha notinha não, tá?
Can it appear in other places or only in the end? Tá. Can you?
It can be used as a filler too.
As a filler too. Okay. Ok. So, mulțumesc pentru atenție. Aceasta a fost tot. Dacă aveți întrebări.
Eu acho que todo mundo poderia abrir o microfone e dar um grande thank you para a Valentina, gente. Vamos lá.
Thank you.
Sem vergonha.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Obrigado, Valentina.
Obrigado.
Mas
como é que é obrigado em romeno?
Ela acabou de mostrar no slide.
Não.
Eu não vi, né?
Eu vou mostrar, não vou falar.
Eu vi, mas eu não entendi.
Era prento? Prento?
I just understood how thank you is in Romanian in the last slide, but I don't know how to say it, so how do we say it?
I am trying to write in the chat, but I don't know what. Now it's so this is how we write.
Eu gosto que aqui a Valentina não tá, tipo, no volume certo, tá todo mundo gritando.
É.
Eu diminui o volume. Como você fala isso? Por favor.
How it was the presentation? Was it
Multimask?
Was it easier for you to follow? Or
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to follow. The examples are very interesting.
When I present these things to a different group, because I usually present it to my teachers, colleagues, and somehow I was worried that it would be too technical. But
no, I think it was.
No, it was awesome.
Let me ask. Actually, I want to ask Arthur something because he said that "ta" could be a filler. I don't know if I understand very well what that means, although I speak Portuguese.
Well, fillers usually are used when we want to say something but we don't remember. So to delay time or
okay, yeah.
sometime we use something. And each language has its own fillers, of course.
Tipo.
Yeah, tipo.
Tipo também. É que nem tipo.
But I don't use that filler.
Yeah, it varies between region and age a lot.
Because they have this word tipa in Russian, no? For the same purpose.
They have this word in Russian, and it is interesting because in Spanish, in Portuguese, it is used tipo, this word, and the same in Russian, which is a Slavic language. But in Romanian, we use gen, like French genre. I think in French is genre. So in Romanian, we don't use tip. We use gen. But in Romanian spoken in Moldova, it's used tipa. Not because of Latin influence, but of Russian influence. So it's an interesting case when a Latin word enters in a Latin language through a Slavic one.
Wow.
And as a discourse marker.
That's cool.
By the way, can you talk a little bit about because I find the situation in Moldova very interesting from this point of view, because how the discourse markers work in this.
I would like to talk about that, but as I said in the beginning, if I will have time, I would like to tell you more things about the importance of discourse markers and when and how they're used and studied. So how many minutes I have to talk?
I don't know.
Actually, I can start.
I'm
very relaxed.
First of all, you know that Romanian is also spoken in Moldova.
Yeah.
Moldova is not historical. Well, it is also a historical region in Romanian, but it is also a country, an independent country between Romania and Ukraine. And there, Romanian is also spoken, but a very weird form of Romanian, because for centuries, for 2 centuries, it was under Russian influence. So because of that influence, Romanian spoken there preserved some old features of old Romanian and borrowed some other lexical, grammatical features from Russian. So for some Romanians, if they go in Moldova, it's very difficult to understand what they're speaking. And of course, the influence of Russian language can be seen not only in grammar and vocabulary, but also in this class of discourse marker. Because for some reasons, and this I don't know exactly why, but I think cognitive linguists can answer to this question. For some reasons, Moldovan speakers prefer Russian discourse markers. So when they say something in Romanian, they choose a discourse marker to attenuate something or to express an attitude or an opinion, to mark an opinion. So this tipo and also хорошо is also used as a discourse marker, which is weird because we also have bine in Romanian, but they don't prefer bine, they prefer the Russian discourse marker. Походу, which is similar with pare, parcă. Короче, which is in short, pe scurt. And what else, if I can remember now? And these attitudinal markers, like классно, прикольно, круто, maybe. Who is learning Russian, maybe you heard of these words. So, прикольно, круто, классно. So they are very frequent in Romanian spoken in Moldova.
Блин, классно, прикольно, круто.
Yes. Okay. What else? What else do you want me to tell you? Well, I wanted to make an observation. The classification I presented of discourse markers is very, how to say, reduced. There is more complicated classifications because the class of discourse markers is very... Who didn't take? There is a question. I cannot see it. What was the question? Who didn't take?
No, it was not a question.
It was a rhetoric question.
Okay.
Good.
They're talking about Moldova.
I wanted to ask, so swear words are discursion markers?
Of course, yes, they enter in this category of discourse markers.
And they're which type?
Most of them mark an attitude. And sometimes not related to the interlocutor, but to the situation itself, to the situation of communication. So, yes, they are very good examples of discourse markers.
Tem que ficar lidando com essa merda aqui.
Por um momento eu não tinha entendido se você estava falando do exemplo.
Caralho.
É, né? Eu também.
Bruno se revoltou.
No, but with swear words, it could be done an entire study, like in each language, what items are, what lexical items become discourse markers, like swear words. Because in some languages, they are taken from this church side. In other languages, the swear words are related to the family. And I don't know. I think studies can be made and see where these words come from.
There is this famous example, holy fucking shit, because there is 3 words from 3 different semantic fields, but when you put them together, it doesn't make sense semantically. What is a holy fucking shit? But it shows these 3 sources of swear words, like the religious context, the body substances, and sex.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So if you're interested in this kind of studies, is open.